Let me go into topic number 3, performing industry analysis to understand your business. As a business technology strategist, enterprise architect need to understand the business. Why do we need to understand the business? I think this message has been earlier described. Basically, we need to have an in-depth analysis and modeling as part of the business architecture models and architecture view, what the business does. So basically, we really need to know what is actually our business doing. We cannot focus on the technology alone. You want to deliver value, you need to know what the business is doing and how our business interact with our customer, partner, and other businesses. Could be by another regulatory or another entities. So how do we interact? So we cannot be ignorant on that. Oh, sorry, that one is my boss' responsibility. I'm only looking at my application architecture. We can't do that. If you claim yourself as an enterprise architect, you need to be concerned about this, and you need to know this very, very well. And how the business change over time. Do we know what is actually our business target or business strategy this year compared to last year, compared to 2 years ago? So what technology that we need to have in place in order to support our strategy this year? So this is the job of every architect, as I mentioned earlier, must perform the role of business architect. What group provide what business function? So we need to understand the whole organization structure, how the function break down into the constituent parts. So we need to know the role, we need to know the line of business, we need to know the department. So this is expected as an architect. That's why IASA make a mandatory for any architect to pass through these business technology strategies. And of course, this training come with the examination. So you need to pass the exam for you to claim that you already master the business technology strategy. This is something very, very important for us to be successful in our career. The next one, of course, we need to understand when and where to use the business model and how we can also use architecture view to communicate value. Otherwise, we cannot communicate value. Many instances is that of IT professional, they have done a good job, but they cannot claim the credit. They just cannot talk. So as an architect, remember just now the second, they got the pillar on the human dynamic as part of the ITABOK. This is where you need to practice communicating value about what we have done. That's why we need to know the business, because if we don't, then we don't know what is the value that we have done. At least we can say that, oh, compared to last year, with the recent 3 projects that we have completed, we have achieved something. This something achieved is need to be measurable and quantifiable in the business context. It's not quantifiable that we have integrated from 5 systems to become 2 systems. For the business, you mentioned this, the business said, what is the implication? That doesn't help me. But you need to mention that my initiative that has been completed in the last 2 projects, now customer can be empowered. They can do self-service. They can change the order in the real time without contacting our call center. That's something the business said, you have done a good job. Thank you for that. So we need to be able to find a sweet spot to communicate this value. The next one is, as an enterprise architect, we need to learn to think like an investor, to look for values and return on investment. What do you expect when you are investing? Do you want to lose money when you invest, or you want to earn money, to make money? Definitely you want to make money. So how can now, as an enterprise architect, we have to think like an investor. So in every project that we are going to embark, we need to look at a holistic view. Can this project bring value to my organization, to me, to my team? If not, we shouldn't do it. The same thing. When we want to invest something, if you know that this investment, if we return value in 20 years, you better run away, because in 20 years, you don't know what happened. So the same thing, investor put money in the industry they have never been in, but they have immense capability to understand new business areas and opportunity. So why can't we mimic how the investor put money? We also putting our time, our resources, our money in the digital transformation, in the IT project. How can we not acting like the investor? And what question would you ask if we wanted you to invest in the technology or IT project? Are we still practicing as the cost center or profit center? This is something very, very interesting. For many generation, at least 10, 20, 30 years, IT is always viewed as a cost center. How can now IT become a profit center? So this is exactly the ITABOK, the body of knowledge teaching us the skill set. How can we turn our work in IT as the profit center? And we need to deliver value to do that. If no value, we just become a burden to the organization. So like today in the situation of COVID-19, if they need to cut the cost, our project will be in the top priority because the management don't see us as the valuable. But if the management see us as the valuable, consider a profit center, they will support our initiative. That's why I have still come across to many of the organization that say, oh, we don't have the budget for IT. I can understand that. And I think by now you can understand what I'm trying to describe. Basically, that IT department don't deliver value. That's why it's not given the money. Actually, the money is there. They call it a zero-sum game. Zero-sum game means the business have the money. So either they invest in IT or they invest in something else that return more value. So how can we show that value in what we do? So this is exactly the business technology strategy, teaching us how to show that value. And of course, we need to look at the similar industry or events that closest map to our current business situation and understand our industry segmentation. If you are in the government, we look at the other countries that are, of course, better off than us, and we understand what they do. If you are in the particular sector, vertical, like in the bank, you look at what are the other our competitor doing. We can get this data, of course, from their website. If they're public listed company, they will announce all their initiative. Then we can also look at their annual report. Then after that, you also need to know what your company's strategy is. And from there, you can prioritize the integration of the organization. This is very, very important. First thing first, you understand you are in which line, which vertical, and you do a benchmarking to the external first. What is actually my industry are doing? If you cannot find the competitor in your region, then you look at the other region. So if you're in Asia, you look in the Europe or in the Middle East or in the US. What actually similar industry like your company in the other region are doing, and you do a benchmarking to understand that. Then of course you can also subscribe and to the industry analyst research firm like IDC, Forrester, Gartner, etc. to get their insight report on the particular industry segment that you are in. So from there, at least you can do a benchmarking. You can understand where you are, where you want to position moving forward. Then after you get all the data, you gather, understand, and study the information from various industry sources. So basically, of course, I mentioned earlier that you can either get it from the website or internet subscription. Then after that, you need to do validation and understand what are the findings that you do not know before. Then after that, from there, you need to master and understand your industry vertical and put yourself into the map. Where is your company today? Why you are not in the number one? Or if you are in the number one, how can we make sure next year we are still number one? What sort of digital transformation that we need to embark so that we can keep ourselves as the leader? Or if not, how can we leapfrog 5 scoring, jump 5 level so that we can become the industry leaders in the top 10 in the world, for instance? So these are something that architects need to be also thinking, not say, oh, I only looking at the next version of this particular technology. We have to focus on the business first. Then from there, we look what are the technology available out there that can support our business technology strategy execution. So the message is loud and clear for architects to be able to perform a different function. They're just focusing on the technology, but focusing more on the business. Then the technology will follow suit. Then from the industry analysis also include getting in-depth involvement with key customer and partner. So architect also need to having a dialogue. Perhaps you need to do a visitation as well to understand about your product, your services. So if you work for a computer company, make sure that you buy one of your computer products and make sure that your family members as well buy the computer product and gather their feedback. Don't try to block your ear and you don't want to listen on the feedback. This is very, very important because in the past, I remember I worked for one of the global technology company and we are not allowed to use our competitor product. Actually, it's wrong. Now, if you understand about our world today, moving very, very fast in the digital world, you need not only try your company product, but also need try your competitor product. Because from there, then you can do benchmarking. Is our competitor product better than us or our product is better than them? This is very, very important. So you shouldn't be selling that, oh, we shouldn't be using our competitor product. In fact, if I am heading the particular department, I will just inform my team, guys, go and buy our competitor product, see benchmarking with our product and services, where they are. And of course, this is, you don't follow this. If you work for a defense contractor, blow something up. Yeah, so don't do that at home. Very, very dangerous. So from there, we understand what was our experience. How does it impact our view of our customer and partners? Of course, you can do a mapping like using customer journey map and to identify all the gaps that we are facing today. So basically, in the essence or the summary of this slide is that we need to know how our product and services being consumed or being viewed by our users or our partners. Topic number 4, performing organization analysis. So after we get to know all the external information, benchmarking, we need to now knowing what actually our business role exists in our organization, what they do. For example, line level employees, management and customer, we need to understand what are actually opportunity at hand. Maybe we want to find out what are actually the top 5 or top 10 customer complaint when you're having dialogue with your customer. We need to look at this opportunity at hand. So the architect is that you need to do a low-hanging fruit. And the way to do low-hanging fruit is that actually whatever you can please the customer, that immediately your contribution will be noticed by the senior management. Rather than you think like, let's move to the cloud. To the management said, yeah, cloud is everywhere, not a big deal, but my customer still complaining. So we need to focus on what is first thing first. What is the bottom line of the business? Solving customer pain. And we look at this opportunity as the low-hanging fruit. Then, of course, we also need to look at targeting 2 key stakeholders interview and discussion per week. So here we are looking key stakeholders looking for the line of the business head or head of department or the director or the vice president or the chief information officer, chief financial officer, chief marketing officer, and also the CEO. We need to know what are actually their concern, their driver, their goals. So this is the job of architects. If you want to be successful in your career, we need to go out and meet with the people, especially with the key stakeholders. That's very, very important. Of course, we also need to understand the business. An organization must model their structure, processes, and people. So we need to know our target states of the business. So we need to know about our strategy, our goals, our capabilities, our customer values, our entities, and our processes, etc. So how do we achieve that? Of course, now we can define this using a framework like TOGAF and Archimate to come out a digital map. And from there, we understand the impact analysis among all these structure, processes, people, capability, application, and etc. So business architecture view should describe the entire enterprise capability map and connected to the line of business and departmental level. This is very, very important because we want to know that when we propose a transformation initiative, which are the department, which are the line of business, which are the capability, which are the role, which are the process, which are the function impacted. That is what we need to know. We do not want, we execute the project, suddenly many complaints that we receive from other departments. So we can adopt and apply a particular technology like a digital enterprise architecture repository to help us to navigate all this impact analysis for decision making. This is where the typical organization structure. So we need to know where you are. Hopefully your team, your IT team is not under CFO. If you are under CFO, means you are still treated as the cost center. So you need to show value so that you are no longer report under the CFO. So of course, this is something, the strategic value. If you want to be strategic as an architect, you can be under the CIO, you can be reporting to the CIO, but you need to have a dotted line to the COO. Do you know why you need to have a dotted line with the Chief Operating Officer? Because Chief Operating Officer have a horizontal access. So as a COO, you have access to the finance, you have access to the marketing, you have access to the logistics, you have access to the sales, you have access to the human resource, and etc. COO have a horizontal access. So if you are the architecture team and you are dotted line with the COO, you have the horizontal access to almost every division, every department, every line of business in your organization. And this is very, very important because architects need to have the information almost from anywhere. what we call it borderless access of the information. We need to be able to get the data without people telling you, sorry, Aaron, you have no access to this information. Even your boss also have no access. But as an architect, we need to be given access to all the enterprise insight and the information so that we can make a strategic decision. So this is the mandate of enterprise architect today, if you want to function effectively. Enterprise architect also need to know about how the business is organized, their main driver, and the goal. So one of the way is that we need to work with the senior leaders. We need to build our networking, our relationship. So we need to do the research in terms of the organization. We need to brainstorm of the inner working relationship within our team, as well as interaction with other team in the same organization, internally as well as externally. So basically, we can't just staying in the IT department all the time. We need to go and meet up, start talking about the business lingo. That's why the business technology strategy like this, helping us to open the horizon and help us to interact with the business people more, because we need to understand that why we are being hired today as an enterprise architect, we need to solve the business pain with the technology. Of course, always gather and discover available information before jumping to a solution. So sometimes we are tempted to make a quick decision, but we can delay. So as an enterprise architect is that we need to have our aspect. You already have a digital map, you have the framework, you have the meta model. So you can start analyzing the impact analysis. If you make a particular decision, which are the entities in your organization will be impacted. So basically here looking at the putting up the digital enterprise map using the Archimate, we want to know which are the business layer impacted for my decision, which are the application layer impacted, which are the information impacted, which are the technology impacted. This is very, very important, and which are the key stakeholders impacted. So as an architect is that you need to be equipped with the right skill set, first thing first, and after that we need to be equipped with the right tool. So we need to have the tool. We cannot use an Excel spreadsheet or Microsoft Word or PowerPoint to make a decision. We need a digital enterprise architecture tools and repository for us to navigate, for us to make a quick decision wisely and timely. And this is actually an example how we can ask the right question. So sometimes we just ask the right question. We don't give the answer, but asking the right question can also expose risk and complexity. So this is actually the real world scenario. So let me just read through the situation. So during a project, an architect swayed business leaders away from a vendor proposed solution after he completed research on the vendor. As he learned, the solution would have been extremely costly, and it would have added 2 layers of complexity to an already complex solution. When researching the vendor and their approach, the architect was able to ask questions of the vendors that exposed holes in the vendor's methodology. So as it turned out, the vendors was selling a train when a handcart would deliver the same business value to the organization. So by knowing the business, knowing also what the vendor is proposed, we can make a conclusion. Imagine you only know about the vendor solution. You could be on the vendor side and you ask the business to pay for that price. Then after that, that solution could be very expensive and takes time and deliver little value. So we need to understand both the business and also the solution, the technology side. Then from there, we can propose the best fit solution. The same thing today also apply with the artificial intelligence, with the robotic. Many people just say must be AI, must be robotic, but we need to understand the business first. Then from there, we analyze which are the AI can help my business to deliver the most value. So this is basically fundamental for an architect to deliver value of the technology investment. So I also understand for every executive in the organization play the key roles. IASA call it these key roles work in tension to collectively manage the company. In our layman term, they play politics. This tension actually playing politics. And playing politics actually is healthy to give us in the competitive, because why? We know that the other party is watching us and we can be pushing us into the next level. But of course, I have seen how the office politics also being played brutally. That at the end of the day, they have to sacrifice a people's life, people's job, and etc. But here I'm talking about the healthy competition. They work in tension. So we need to navigate using the organization chart, and we need to know the power structure. or what I would call it power struggle. Which one is more powerful? Which one is backed up by the senior executive? So we need to understand all this org chart. As an architect, you want to be successful, you cannot ignore this. This is the key for a successful career in the typical organization. If you study like MBA, they call it organization behavior. This is a normal, healthy, because we need to be able to navigate and we need to be able to, of course, protect ourselves and protect the interests of the key stakeholders. Then we need to use a contact insight in the company to learn political detail about the executive team, how they would like to be communicated, their key concern or the strategy that may impact our architecture, our transformation, and our project. This is very, very key. We cannot ignore this, because interestingly that in the business technology strategy training, they got many workshops to put you into the scenario like this and how you navigate. So this is basically just to give you a glimpse on the what actually being covered, but in the actual training is that there will be many scenario you'll be put into the context. How are you going to navigate this political situation? So this is an example on the key stakeholder work intention between the CEO and the CFO. As you can see here, let me just focus on the CEO. This is Archimate. So for those of you who have not seen Archimate, you can start modeling the Archimate, but modeling Archimate itself, you need to have the right framework, right repository to navigate this so-called model. So the first one is the CEO. The CEO have a driver, which is customer satisfaction. So to the CEO is that customer satisfaction is number one. So customer satisfaction is the goal of the CEO. And of course, CEO mentioned is that in order to do that, CEO want to have improved portfolio management. So basically, we need to have a profiling of every of our customer and partner. So we need to, some of the high net worth individual, we need to assign the personal assistant, and we need to provide online portfolio service. And at the end, system should be customer facing. So this is what when we gather from the CEO. However, when we gather from the CFO, CFO only concerned about the costs. So to the CFO is that the goal is we need to reduce interaction with customer, because why? Interaction with the customer is very expensive. We need to claim for the travel, entertainment, and etc. And also we need to reduce manual work. So if we combine the CEO and the CFO, we can see that the driver of the CEO actually clashing with the CFO driver, and the clash actually with the goal of the CFO, which is reduce interaction with customer. So when you reduce interaction with the customer, so your customer service people can't really please the customer satisfaction, and that therefore impacting the CEO. So imagine if you are working in this organization for some time, perhaps you have seen that already 2 CEO gone, already 3 CFO gone, and you might think that these 2 positions are very difficult in this company. But if we analyze using enterprise architecture in the motivation modeling here, actually the design of the organization structure is something not healthy. So we need to tweak this, and we need to fix this negative influence, because this negative influence causing the friction between the CEO and the CFO. So this is something very interesting, that by understanding the business well, by understanding the political tension in our organization, we can discover something that we never thought before. Actually, the organization has been designed in the wrong structure that caused 2 departments to be overly competitive. So you can see that enterprise architecture actually helping the organization, in fact, to restructure the political landscape of the particular tension between the key stakeholders. Architects also need to spend a significant amount of time with both IT and business team, but both need to be equally balanced. So architect need to validate our architecture requirement or request with the business team. So we need to understand different team objectives, where are the requests coming from, and we need to understand the political motivation behind it. And of course, we can reject some idea. Not every idea is good, and we need to keep corporate objective and real value in mind. So always focus on the what we are trying to achieve.